Okay, so I've had a few people ask me the questions about how I set up my floats when I'm doing my slider. So it's really quite simple. It's really just a few stop nuts on the line. I personally like to use 3 stop nuts only because if I'm going to be changing depth from the deeper position to the shallower position, it just means you haven't got to move your stop nuts. It's just that one in the middle that runs up and down. So I'll go and set it up for you now, and then I will just cover over what we've done later on. Okay, so in short, you're going to need some elastic. You can use your normal line if you need to. Doesn't really make a difference. I personally prefer just using a bit of pole elastic. It's cheaper. You can buy it on huge reels, 5 meters long. And the other reason is it's just nice and easy to see on your line too. Simple water knot. Essentially, you just make a loop and you tie that over through your main line 4 to 5 times. Always make sure you moisten your knot. Then you just pull it tight. So simple as that. Holds on. I always trim these down. If I was fishing probably with normal line on here, I actually like to leave a longer tag simply because it's easier for it to go through the eyes of the rod. But for this purpose, the depth I'm fishing, it's not going to be that deep anyway. So I normally just trim these off, neaten them up. Make sure you don't cut your main line as you do it. Essentially, when you've got that first one on, you can then just thread on that float. Now, I always like a decent float, good body. This one here has got a little bit of weight to it as well, which just helps. It just means you haven't got to add masses of bulk shot to your slider as it goes. So, simply a matter of threading that on, if you can see what you're doing, like so. That then butts up against there and simply can't go any further. So what I'll do is I'll go and tie 2 more on, nice and quick, and come back to you in a sec. Okay, so you finished setup. You should have 2 stop knots above the float, 1 stop knot below the float. So essentially this top stop knot here, that's the one that's going to be your deepest part that you're going to be fishing in the lake. And essentially the one on the left hand side will be the most shallow spot. And essentially all you do is you just then use this in between one to then move your float between the shallow margin spot if that's what you're fishing, or alternatively pushing it all the way back up to your deepest spot. That way it just means that you can fish 1 float, 1 set of gear on 1 rod, and you can alternate between the 2 distances between your long spot and your short spot. Of course, what we still need to do is tie the hook onto this end with a bit of bulk shot, and I'll go on and show you that now. Right, and that is the completed rig. So essentially you've got your hook down here with your bulk shot, very important. I often like to make sure this is certainly more than enough to make sure that this float will sink. You've got your bottom stop knot here, so that's your lowest depth that you're wanting, and remember that is also including the height of your float. Your top stop knot here is your most furthest depth, and obviously this is your adjustment, so whether you want to fish the short or either the long depth. Really simple float technique, really effective. Bites are pretty much unmissable.